We need 6 words, one moment, and boom, the internet explodes, because for some reason Kelsey Mitchell decided now was the time to drop a cryptic team first message in the middle of the Fever's most tightly watched season, while Caitlin Clark, the team star, rookie, and most talked about player is out injured. And if you think people encash the subtext thing again, if you're here for the real story and not filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Because while Mitchell may have framed as a rallying cry a Decoration Unity, what it sounded like to a lot of fans, players, and analysts was something else entirely, a thinly veiled shot of Clark, and honestly, that energy is tired. Let's be clear, Kelsey Mitchell has had an amazing season, and taking that away from her, she's been scoring an elite level, keeping the team compare during injuries and stepping into the leadership spotlight when needed. Cool. But this felt personal. The phrase itself, we all we need isn't some random line. It carries weight. It's what you say when someone's missing from the picture and you want to remind people that maybe they're not as essential, or as everyone thinks. You say it when you want to shift the spotlight away from someone who's been getting too much of it. You say it when you want to search your place in story that seems that moved on without you, and when Caitlin Clark isn't even on the court to defend herself, when she's literally sidelined, injured, due in her bed as a support from a bench. That's when Kelsey Mitchell decided to say, come on, let's stop pretending this was just a motivational speech. It was calculated, it was intentional, it was a kind of low-key disrespect that doesn't show up in headlines until it does, and now that it has, let's talk about why it's such a bad look. Because while Mitchell has been grinding the lead for years, and yes, she deserves respect for that, what Caitlin Clark has done in months can't be brushed off as hype clocked in to show up and go viral. She transformed Fever's visibility overnight. She made Indiana relevant again. She filled arenas, brought a new fans, and put the WNBA on the front page in a way we haven't seen in years. And yet the reaction from some of her teammates has felt cold, a little too cold, like maybe there's something simmering under the surface. And of his locker room quote is any indication, there absolutely is. It's not just about words, it's about energy. You feel it when Mitchell doesn't celebrate Clark's assist the same way you feel when the chemistry looks off, when the ball doesn't move, when plays break down. You feel in the post-game interviews where Clark gives credit to the team and others barely mention her name. There's a difference between team pride and so subtle exclusion, and lately the Indiana Fever have been dancing dangerously close to that line. But here's the thing, you don't have a tear someone down to build yourself up. Kelsey Mitchell could have taken that moment and praised a team without implying anything about Clark. She could have celebrated Lexi, all Odyssey Sams, or even herself, without taking a sideways jab at the rookie who's done nothing but elevate entire league. Instead, she chose to make it about who's present, as if Caitlin zaps and somehow made the team stronger. That's not leadership. That's insecurity. And let's be real, no one is threatened by Clark more than the player. Those who've been overlooked for years. It's not fair, but it's the truth. Caitlin Clark has become the face of a movement that had been building long before she arrived. And while she's getting endorsement deals and headlines, there are players who've been grinding in the shadow for years, and now they feel ignored. We get it. It's frustrating, but you know what else? It's not Caitlin's fault. She there for the spotlight. She just earned it with ridiculous range, with elite vision, with work ethic, with composure, with numbers that would make your jaw drop if you stopped hating long enough to look. She's not cocky. She's not entitled. She's grateful. She thanked her teammates. She passes first. She owns mistakes. She plays through contact. She stays classy when things get ugly. So when Mitchell, a veteran, makes a moment about we don't need her, even if she doesn't say directly, the message is still loud and clear. There's tension. And that tension, it could destroy everything Fever have built the season. Because no matter how many wins are racked up, no matter how did they go and play off, and the locker room is fractured, if leadership becomes petty instead of powerful, it won't last. The best teams don't to survive adversity. They don't just say the right things, they show up for each other, and right now it doesn't feel like Kelsey Mitchell is showing up for most important teammate. The irony, Caitlin Clark would never say anything like this, even after being knocked down, found hard, screamed at, left unsupported by teammates, and on-court scuffles. She's still keeps a respectful, still talks team first, still clap for others, even when they won't clap, for that's what leadership actually looks like. That's what maturity looks like. That's what a franchise player looks like. Kelsey Mitchell had a chance to stand beside her to say we're all we need, including her, but she chose exclusion. She chose a sound bite. She chose a narrative that put ego over unity. And for a team that tried to build something sustainable, that's the wrong choice, because this league doesn't need another petty feud. It needs cohesion, growth, respect, and starts with recognize. And there, Caitlin Clark is not the enemy cheesy engine. She's not the outsider. She's a future, and the sooner her teammates see that, the sooner this team could become something truly unstoppable. So we think was Kelsey Mitchell's statement a subtle shy Caitlin? Is this a deeper issue and the fever locker room can survive internal tension, or is only a matter of time before it explodes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you Team Clark or Team Mitchell? Can this team hold together, or is there already a crack in a foundation? And don't forget to subscribe for more drama breakdowns and behind the scenes. From a wild world of sports and pop culture. Because when the game stopped the chaos, it keeps going. Well, Kelsey Mitchell might have thought you were delivering a motivational post-game might drop. What she actually did was ripped open wound. Indiana Fever have been trying pretend it doesn't exist all season. The Caitlin Clark tension is not speculation anymore. It's not his body length. Aging clip post-game comments. It's real, and now it out loud. And no, it's not just about one quote. But this quote, this was the moment the mask slipped, the moment people stopped giving the benefit of the doubt. Because you don't say we got we need in the middle of a winning season without meaning something by, especially when a person who's missing, Caitlin Clark, is the reason most people are watching. Let's keep it real. The Fever weren't trending before Caitlin got there. They weren't selling out arenas. They weren't headlining. They weren't in the national conversation. And Kelsey Mitchell, for our talent, and yes, she is a gem, really talented. She wasn't on Sneaker Deals magazine covers or MVP watch lists. Caitlin Clark didn't steal the spotlight. She created the spotlight. She walked into a struggling franchise and turned it into appointment, viewing the kind of impact in-season vet spent a decade trying to make. And instead of celebrating that, Kelsey Mitchell throws a passive-aggressive team slogan into the wind, like it's just a cute locker room and chant. No, says that's not how this works. If you're a real leader, you lift people up, especially when they're down. Caitlin is hurt, she's out, and the team is grinding through it, sure. But don't use or absence as a platform to reclaim your moment. That's not leadership, that ego wrapped in jersey. And let's be honest, this didn't come out of nowhere. You felt the data for months now. Kelsey, his body language every time Clark dishes a dime and doesn't get a nod, the lack of connection during timeouts, the distance between them on the bench, even that infamous moment when Clark was blatantly fouled and half the team, including Mitchell, didn't even blink, let alone step in. That wasn't about missing play, that was a choice and message, and now that message is loud and clear. You're not one of us, which is wild considering Caitlin Clark has done nothing but try to fit in. She could have walked into the league with a full-blown bad attitude. She could have played media game, all about herself, and leaned into the hype. But she didn't. She passed first. She stayed humble. She deflected praise. She shouted out her teammate by name. She kept respectful when no one was respecting her. And now Kelsey Mitchell, the supposed veteran leader, want to send a cryptic message implying they don't need her. Make it make sense. Let's flip this for a second. Imagine if the roles were reversed. Imagine Caitlin Clark got up in a locker room after win without Mitchell and said, we all we need. The media would explode, call Carr smug, arrogant. They'd say she's ungrateful, selfish, a bad teammate. They are TikTok think pieces, people calling for suspensions. But because it's Mitchell, we're supposed return is just that team first mantra. Now we're not buying it because this is part of bigger problem. The way some veterans in the league are handling the rise of new stars. And it's not just about Caitlin. It's about a culture shift that's making a lot of people uncomfortable. For the first time in a long time, the WNBA is in the mainstream. People are watching, debating, buying jerseys, filling arenas. And because players like Clark, yes Clark, are bringing in a wave of new fans, instead of seeing that as an opportunity, some players see as a threat. And that's where the real tension lies. Because for years, players like Mitchell have earned their spot to grind talent consistency, and now someone new shows up and instantly becomes a phase in the league. It feels unfair, it feels disrespectful, it feels like a razor, and I get that I do, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Caitlin Clark didn't read the rules, she just broke the algorithm. She early attention to performance, due excellence. They're the kind of game that makes people stop scrolling and start watching. That's not media bias, that's impact. And if you're real, that you don't fight, that you harness it, you build with it, you say, let's ride together. But instead, Mitchell's messages were good without her. And that energy, that's how you ruin a locker room. That's how you fracture a team that could actually go deep in the playoffs. That's how you take a potential dynasty and turn it into a collection of resentments. Because here's the thing, Kelsey is not seeing you go in a few games without Caitlin Clark. But you won't win, the future will. Outer. She is the engine, the attention, the economics, the why behind the new eyes on a fever. And if Mitchell can't recognize that she's not a leader, she's an obstacle. And you know what, that's heartbreaking, because this could have been a beautiful story. Clark dishes, Mitchell finishes, one become the playmaker, the other the scorer. They grow into this unstoppable duo, a 1-2 pawn step with Indiana back on a map. For real, you could have had the Splash Sisters 2.0. Instead, we're getting a locker room civil war disguised as motivation. And it's not just a bad look, it's a strategic disaster. Because the teams that win, the ones that build legacies, they buy and they trust each other, they protect each other. They don't throw subtle shade after wins. They say, we missed you, Caitlin, we're holding it down for you, not. We're fine without you. So let's call what it is. This quote, this we got moment. It was a message, a challenge, a line drawn in sand, and the fever don't fix it. If they don't have some very real, very honest conversation behind those doors, this season couldn't plow before it even starts to peak. Because no matter how good the record looks, bad energy doesn't lie. This Kelsey Mitchell versus Caitlin Clark situation, it's not just a little locker room tension anymore. This is turned into a full-blown case study in ego leadership and the uncomfortable growing pains of a team that this supposed to blow in their shot a greatness. And I know some people are still sitting their arms crossed, saying you're reading too much into it. Is just a quote, is just a slogan. You're making drama where there isn't any. But here's the thing, in professional sports, everything is a message. These players, they're media trained. They've done hundreds of pressers. They know what they're saying, and more importantly, they know what they're not saying. So, and Kelsey Mitchell drops, we all we need right after another gritty win without Caitlin Clark in the court. And the tone is sharp, like she's got some to prove. That's not a coincidence. That the signal, not the words themselves, is the timing, the tone, the context. This wasn't said in October at training camp. This was mid-season, in the middle of a national conversation about Clark's impact, in the middle of growing frustration from fans. Will watch her get fouled, targeted, and disrespected on and off the court, not just by opponents, sometimes by our own team. And now Mitchell, the team's seasoned vet, essentially says, we're fine without her. That's not a rally cry, that the boundary that's drawing a circle and stepping inside it without Caitlin Clark. And what makes it worse, there's a need for this kind of energy, the fever of finally getting their rhythm. They're winning close games. They're building chemistry. They have a legit shot at the playoff, the first time in nearly a decade. And instead of season, that momentum and unifying squad, we're getting locker room clicks and subliminal messaging like this is high school J. V come on, this is a W. This is legacy building time, and whether the team likes it or not, Caitlin Clark is a part of that legacy now, a huge part. She's not just name on the roster. She's the brand. It doesn't mean she's untouchable. It doesn't mean she's above criticism. But it does mean that when she's injured and everything, she can stay connected, cheer from the bench, support her teammates. You don't throw shade in the middle of the win column. You give her credit. You say, this one for you, Caitlin. You show grace. You lead by example. That's what leadership is. And right now, Kelsey Mitchell is not leading. She's reacting. And she's doing it in a way that's slowly dividing the fan base and possibly the locker room. Because here's what no one wants to admit: some of Caitlin Clark's own teammates have been slower to embrace her than her biggest rivals. Think about there for a second. She's taken hard fouls. She's been shot, out-screamed and dismissed. She's been the subject of entire ESPN segments debating whether or not she's being targeted. And through it all, she's never once thrown a teammate under the bus, never once complained about the locker room, never once tried to shift blame. She does. Shows up, take the hits, keeps playing. And that is why fans, not just fans, not just new WNBA fans, have rallied around her. Because she's bringing accountability, she's bringing respect, she's bringing the kind of leadership that a Fever need if they ever want to go from potential to championship material. Bones data protecting their energy. Kelsey Mitchell is undermining it. And that's not just disappointing, it's dangerous, because this league is watching, the entire country is watching, and every time the Fever let this narrative spiral out of control, every time they choose petty over unity, exclusion over elevation, they send a message: we care more about control than we do about growth. And that's how you lose, not on the scoreboard, on the big stage, on the level where legacies are made and broken. Because here's the reality, Caitlin Clark. I could have played this game differently. She could have made it all about herself. She could have sold out her teammate in interviews. She could have shaded a franchise, criticized a coaching, weaponize or massive platform. But she hasn't, not once. She's kept her head down, stay humble, and trusted to work speak for itself. And now she's being told in not so subtle terms that she's not needed. So let me ask you, what happens if Clark decides not to be quiet next time? What happens if she claps back? What happens if she asks for trade? What happens if she says, I'm good, I'll go play somewhere, I'm respected? You think those sold out arenas are sticking around? You think those sponsorships, those media deals, those nationally televised games of and follow anyone else on that roster? Let's not kid ourselves. Caitlin Clark is the engine. Kelsey Mitchell is a passenger who thinks she's driving. The sad part is she could have been the co-pilot. She could have leaned into this era, supported the rookie, benefited from the spotlight. But instead, she's trying to rewrite the story. And in doing so, she might just write herself out of it. Because here's what true leadership looks like. It's not about being the loudest voice. If it's not about reminding people how long you've been in the lead, it's about knowing when to shut up and pass the mic, not permanently, not out of submission, but out of vision. If Kelsey Mitchell really cared about winning, about legacy, about building something that lasts, she'd be lifting Clark up, not put her out. Because when Clark shines, the whole team wins, the league wins, Mitchell wins. But hey, maybe she's not interested in that kind of victory. Maybe she'd rather be the main character in a smaller story, in a supporting character in a dynasty. And if that's the case, then she'll get exactly what she wants. Just don't be surprised when the cameras stop rolling, the fans stop showing, and a headline stop printing your name, because you were too busy competing with your own team to realize what you had in front of you. When you strip away the spin, the media friendly phrasing, any over-polished interviews, there's one undeniable fact sitting in the middle of the end. Yeah, a Fever like an elephant with scoreboard on his back. There's a problem. And it's not just about one quote. It's not just about Caitlin Clark being out when injury is not just about Kelsey Mitchell having a career best season. It's about a team with two leaders pulling in two different directions. Kelsey Mitchell was playing like so, point prove, and she's proving it. She's tough, she's clutch, she knows how to get buckets. But what she's also doing intentionally or not is building a wall around her leadership and saying this is mine, not hers, and Caitlin Clark, she the opposite, she's trying to blend. To support to be the rookie who listens and earns or plays despite the fact that, let's be honest, she's already earned it on the court, off the court, in the culture. But every time she passes, have a shot to feed someone else, every time she claps from the bench, every time she shrinks just a little to not step on toes, when she's really doing is buying time a room that still doesn't fully trust her. And the fact that she has to do that should tell you everything, because this isn't just ego, this isn't just a locker room adjustment. This is a power struggle. Kelsey Mitchell wants to be the face of the team. Caitlin Clark already is. That's not Caitlin's fault. That's not Kelsey's fault either. But the difference, Clark's handling it like a pro, Mitchell's handling it like someone keeping score. And that's the part that should concern every Fever fan. Because this isn't just about feelings. It's about winning, and winning doesn't happen when players care more about validation and chemistry. You think Aces players care who gets the credit. When they're holding up the trophy, you think you can't care, which started out to shine when they were cutting down nets. Real teams share the way, and real leaders sheer delight. So if Mitchell want to lead his team into the playoffs, and not just another almost season, she needs to wake up and realize Caitlin CL